On July 4th, 2025, Kerr County, Texas was hit by a massive storm system that unleashed relentless rain across the region. According to provisional data from the U.S. Geological Survey, the Guadalupe River at Kerrville rose over 32 feet in an hour and a half, all between 5:15 and 6:45 in the morning. At Hunt, Texas, where branches of the Guadalupe River converge, gauges recorded a 22-foot rise in only 2 hours, peaking nearly 29 feet before the gauge failed. Downstream in communities like Comfort, Texas, surges of nearly 30 feet tore through the area, overwhelming everything in their path. This is the second of 7 special episodes in our series honoring the men and women who responded to the rescue and relief efforts during that catastrophic event. Welcome to the Real ResQ Podcast, part of the Vertical Helicast family, right alongside the Hangar Z, the Helicopter Podcast, Valor Flight Crew, and Vertical MRO Podcast. You can check them all out at verticalhelicast.com. A huge thank you to Vertical Magazine, along with all of the sponsors who made these in-person interviews possible. Breeze Eastern, dedicated to the mission. Check them out at breeze-eastern.com. Precision Aviation Group. Their precision is the key to your performance. Check them out at precisionaviationgroup.com. Ready Bar, the mission-ready meal where 1 bar equals 1 meal. Check them out at getreadybar.com. And on checkout, use the promo code RESQ10 for 10% off. We always have the Real ResQ Store where you can get your gear to support this podcast at therealresqstore.com. All right, it is time to get into the second part of this series. We're joined by a member of the Texas Task Force 1 who leads the Joint Air-Ground Coordination Team. He's an adventurer who loves caving and has spent 8 days underground on 2 major expeditions, expanding exploration into one of America's most magnificent cave systems. He's also an avid shooter, as well as a workout junkie, mixing the two by competing in the tactical games. Think CrossFit with guns. He is a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and he trains several times a week, and he runs his own training company called Origin Rigging. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. DJ Walker. My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard Rescue Swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real ResQ Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Real ResQ Podcast. I'm still in Austin, Texas right now, and I've had an opportunity to record with a bunch of people here, a bunch of agencies, and this guy in particular, we're going to get more into Kerrville rescues that went on there, and he was a huge component of everything that went on there. The kind of the manager of a bit of the scene, right?
Yeah, I was the JAG CT chief, as we call it, the Joint Air Ground Coordination Team. And so in Texas, whenever we have a big event where there's a bunch of air resources that are going to be used for that, we coordinate all those air resources through what we call the JAG CT. And so for this event, I was the chief of that cell inside the State Operations Center here in Austin, and did the best we could to coordinate I think on day 1, and my memory's faded a little bit, but we had between 15 and 20 aircraft on day 1.
Wow.
And then come day 2 and 3 and beyond, we started managing and coordinating 25 to 30 aircraft a day.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
Yes,
okay, well, hi. DJ Walker, everybody, what's up?
What's up?
Dude, thank you so much for coming on. And,
yeah, for sure.
This has been like eye-opening for me personally, because I knew there was a lot of assets that were out here. I've talked to a lot of people, but to hear the multitude of the the efforts put into the search side, the rescue side, the recovery side, and then still going on even now to try to find that last person to give closure to the family is mind-boggling to me, because it's this all happened July 4th of this year, and currently we're recording at the end of October, and it's still happening. There are still people searching and working. That's incredible. And then to hear other people that were down there for a month and weeks, and like it's just it's awesome to see that the resources are there and that the people care that much to go out and keep going. So, before we get into that, though, if you don't mind, just a little background about like who you are and how you got into this position.
For sure. So, my full-time job is I'm a rescue captain with Austin Fire in Austin, Texas. And I've been there 25 years now. And through those years, the entirety of that career has been in what we call our Special Operations Battalion. And so in our specialty battalion, everybody does everything: water rescue, structural collapse, ropes, all of it. Along the way, I joined Task Force 1 as a rescue specialist. We like to call those rock breakers.
Nice.
Spent a few years on that Type 1 team. At the same time, I had made a few boat deployments with the boat guys in kind of infancy of the state boat resource program in the probably early 2000s. And then around 2000, probably 7 or 8, there were a few hurricanes that came into the Gulf, and Starflight had been partnering with the National Guard to put rescue swimmers on the Black Hawk helicopters to help with emergency response in the state. But Starflight's somewhat of a small program, and they were having a hard time meeting the demand to fill the request that the National Guard wanted as far as the number of swimmers that they could give out at one time.
Yeah.
And so they looked to Task Force 1, because in the state of Texas, Task Force 1 is the ESF-9 responsible entity. And Task Force said, well, we've got our structural collapse team. Let's pick some of the people that are on that team to ride in the helicopters, not as rescue swimmers, but as liaisons with basically between the task force and the Guard to be able to use those helicopters to affect rescue and evacuations and those kind of things. And so I was one of the, I guess, 4 or 5 folks that were assigned to Black Hawks during that hurricane season. And I think I went out maybe 2 or 3 times. Not a lot of work to be done, more of just aerial observation and moving some teams here and there.
Yeah.
But it was kind of the very beginning of the program as we know it now.
Was that in and around the Harvey time? Like
no,
that
it was
before then?
Yeah, well before
Okay.
that. Harvey was in 2017.
Yeah.
This was Hurricane Dean, and I want to say that was in 06 or 07.
Okay.
So somewhere around it might have been 08. But around 08, the task force decided to more formally put that program together. And and I guess I'll just tell a little story about that. I kind of decided that I had enough irons in the fire, and I was not going to apply. And
I got too much going on.
I kind of did at the time, but one of the guys that worked for Austin Fire, a guy named Travis Marr, he died just a couple years ago and it's related to his response to 9/11. He died of stomach cancer that kind of popped up out of nowhere and took him within a year. Good close friend of mine.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was tough, but. So rewind back to 08, and I'd kind of made this decision that I had enough irons in the fire, and Travis cornered me up and said, no, dude, you need to apply, because Travis was starting to move up in Task Force 1, was taking on a lot of leadership roles there. He said, man, you got to do this. Okay. So he talked me into it, and so I applied and was in the first group of swimmers that got picked up on the team, and we initialized the team through our first swim schools, started working all the kinks out, and so I joined the team. And the first probably 6 to 7 years of the team, it was pretty dry as far as deployments and action goes. It was a new thing. Not a lot of people knew about us, and at that time, there just wasn't a lot of natural disasters that were going on.
Well, but, and that side of it, because I've seen this as well. When you stand up a new program, you're right. People don't know. Yep. And if you don't know, you don't make the call.
That's correct.
It's not until all of a sudden you respond to a handful of them and they're like, who are you? Like, this is who we are. Like, Oh, this is a good asset. I like this, and
Yes.
I'm gonna call you more.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that was kind of our story as far as the team goes, and the after '09 when the team got officially stood up, and it was, like I said, probably about a 5 or 6 year period where we would deploy every now and then, but we never saw action. And but then there were a few water events that occurred, and one in particular up in Dallas where a news camera caught one of our rescues go down, and it was pretty harrowing. But anyhow, that kind of put us on the mark, or put us
Were
on
you
the
there
map.
for that one?
I was one of the 2 helicopters that were there, but
Yeah.
I was not the helicopter that accomplished that mission.
Right on.
Yeah, but we were high-fiving at the time because we were pretty stoked to be actually getting out and getting some work done.
Yeah, that's cool.
So then shortly thereafter, there was a big flood event on Memorial Day in the Blanco, and really affected it. Very similar to the Kerrville circumstance. It just affected a different river in a different part of the state.
Okay.
And Wimberley was had a big impact, and then downstream in San Marcos had an impact. And so we were very active during that event, and that's kind of where everybody was like, okay, yeah, this is what we do. This is our team. So shortly after that event, we have our program manager, Brett Dixon, and then there were 3 managers who were Starflight guys at the time. But Starflight was kind of taking a step back away from the program, and they were focusing on Starflight and a little bit less on the task force. And so some of their guys stepped back, and so there was a manager position open up. And was very conflicted because I want to be the dude doing the cool rescue stuff. Yep. And if I'm going to be real honest and tell the truth, I'd only personally done 1 real hoist at that moment in time. And so I said, man, I think I want to stay as the guy on the hook. Like that's what I joined this team to do.
Yeah.
But I had a number of people encourage me to apply for this manager position. And after a lot of reflection, I did and got the position. And that's placed me in a role where I'm the guy coordinating things. And I often joke with people that and it's a joke, but it is the truth. Like my job is to dispatch helicopters. And so where shortly after I got that job, Hurricane Harvey happened. And I ended up down in Houston and stepped into the Coast Guard kind of command cell that was happening there at Ellington. And at first it was, I like to call it butt sniffing, how dogs like to sniff each other's butts whenever they kind of get in, who are you? What's all this?
Do we need to fight right now? Or is it like, are we friends?
Exactly. We wear big, bright blue flight suits when we stick out like sore thumbs.
Yeah.
And but the good thing about that is we're very recognizable. And so when we walked in, the facility commander at the time was like, I know these blue guys. Like we've done training together before. Yeah. And so he looked at the guy that was running that command cell, and he said, integrate them into the operation. And so, again, that was many years ago, but I think at that time I had maybe 7 aircraft that were that I had ownership of that were state assets, a combination of Lakotas and Blackhawks, both in the state, and some EMAC resources from out of state.
Wow.
And so that was a wild ride. There was about 4 solid days of just bonkers craziness. And I just, basically the Coast Guard integrated me into their operation, and they had an Excel spreadsheet that had all of the requests for air missions listed out that had been coming into Harris County. And they owned the ones that they could, and they dished off to me the ones that they thought that we could own. And we spent 4 or 5 days just plowing through that list, just nonstop.
Wow.
So that was pretty crazy. And I realized that my role on the team then was to enable the guys that were in the aircraft to get on mission and make a difference. And so since then, I just embraced that role. And I know that I'm not the guy that's going to be on the hook anymore. My job is to make sure that they get into the right areas to make a difference.
So you've officially given it to the younger guy.
I guess you might say that.
Son
Yeah,
of a gun.
it's a pill to swallow, and there'll be a deployment in the future where maybe I get to ride on the hook, but my role now is to enable. So. Yeah.
I'm so sorry to hear that, and I'm so happy for you at the exact same time, dude.
Yes, sir.
Because I get it. Like we went out and we were training yesterday, and it was to be back on like hanging from a harness, or actually it was hanging from the quick strap, going up. I'm like, oh yeah, I do like this.
Yeah, this is fun.
I remember, yeah,
for sure. And which I get that we train once a month, and some of those training events are multi-day, and so I get to get in and jump in and be part of the rotation on that. But when a big event happens, I'm usually the guy that's put into the command role.
That's cool.
Yeah, which is probably a good segue to this July 4th situation.
For sure, yeah. If you want to jump right in, that's
so
great.
Leading up to the 4th, the program manager Brett, he was out of town.
This is kind of funny to me actually, because I've talked to Brett a couple times, and I'm gonna put this out there because I know he won't. So he was totally on vacation up in like I think it was Oklahoma, and doing his thing with his family, like just enjoying the 3-day weekend and doing his thing, and his phone was blowing up, and he's like, I'm out of town, guys.
Yep. Yeah, Brett at the heart is just a good man.
Yeah.
And so you couple a good man with capabilities and a high work ethic, and which he has, and he just becomes a linchpin. And when you need something done, you should ask a busy person, as one of my mentors told me. And Brett's as busy as they get, and he's that busy because he's that good.
Wow, so, that's cool.
Even though he's out of town, everybody's going to call him.
Yeah. And he's like, "What is going on? What are you guys doing?" Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
things are happening. So on the 3rd, as we pointed out, he's out of town, and a number of times before, when Brett's gone and things start blowing up, I try to step in and fill his shoes the best I can, which typically includes coordinating with the National Guard facilities and what kind of aircraft they can support us with on a request, how many swimmers we have that we can put on those helicopters, and then balance that with what the state wants. Like the state can say, hey, we want 10 helicopters, but if there's only 6 that are out of maintenance and we only have the swimmers to support that, like we can only offer what we can.
Yeah.
So there's just a coordination piece that happens there. So on the 3rd, some of the other folks at the task force headquarters called me and said, hey, Brett's out of town. How do we do this helicopter thing? And I said, well, I got you.
Nice.
Piece of cake.
Hold this drink.
Exactly.
Hold my coffee. I got this.
And part of this story for me and my end is I had a giant 4th of July party planned at my house to include one of my best buddies, Russell McCullough, a very well-known rescue dude around the country. He came over from Mississippi with his family, and so they're staying at my house, and like I've got this giant party planned on the 4th. So when they called me on the 3rd, I said, I got it. I'll coordinate it. Like this is when Brett's gone, I typically step in, so I'll start coordinating things. So I started polling the guys on their availability to deploy, and then I reached out to the facilities on aircraft availability and just started working all that coordination piece and started gluing things together, kind of stepped away from my friend that's in from out of town, and get things organized. And part of this, I won't belabor it too much, but the organization that I work for, Austin Fire, had put a moratorium on deployments for a short period. And so the 4 of us that are Austin firefighters were not allowed to deploy. So I had to staff the team without us being available. So that's where Brian Winchell, who I know you interviewed before, he initially was pegged as the HSART manager for the deployment because I wasn't allowed to deploy. And so anyways, we staffed the aircraft the best we can with the swimmers that we have available on the 3rd, not having any idea what was coming that night, right? Like this is just, and this is, as deployments go, the way I try to describe it is real commonly, there'll be the bat signal will go up for a deployment. Yeah. We'll all hut and get aircraft staffed and fly wherever we think the threat area is going to be, and then nothing happens. And that's just the nature of a deployment. Is real common. You get stood up, but then the weather doesn't occur. There's just no rescues that happen, or we don't get requested.
Can I emphasize more on that?
Sure.
Because I've heard this a couple times where the staging of stuff and staging of people and aircraft and assets. You guys do that quite often. And as a matter of fact, yesterday, just kind of coming out of here, Trevor gets a message like, "Hey, I can't meet you anymore. We're getting stood up. There's a possible thing going on, and I got to bail. I got to get my gear ready and go." And I'm like, "Wow." So, and this is something that I want everybody to know is that you guys stage way before everything. Well, not way before, but before an event happens. Like you see it, okay, it could happen, and we're going to set assets up here, 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 and here for the just in case.
Yeah, so I think a way to describe that is there are local resources that are available day to day, and it just depends on what the local entity has decided to do to support these kind of events. So if you look, say, in Central Texas, that's why Starflight in Travis County is where it is because Travis County has decided, hey, we want an air rescue available asset available in the county.
Yeah.
Not all counties have that capability, but some of those folks lean on DPS or Texas Parks and Wildlife or any number of other programs that are around the state. But like as the State Operations Center, the Texas Division of Emergency Management, I might say would probably be a better way to say it, is they're looking at the state and the hazards that they believe the state are facing day to day or week to week. Some of that is they will wake up and they'll get a weather briefing that, hey, there's a weather event anticipated in East Texas, West Texas, or South Texas, or we see this hurricane coming in off the Gulf and we're going to pre-stage equipment. We're going to stand up boat teams or ground teams, high profile vehicles, helicopters, like whatever that is on the state side that they feel like they want to pre-position in case it turns into a natural disaster.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
So with that, sometimes helicopter resources from Texas Task Force 1 and our Texas Military Department, we're a joint team. Sometimes we get stood up and sometimes we don't. So sometimes the weather guys look at it and say, we're going to only stand up 3 boats. Or, hey, we're going to stand up 6 boats and 2 water group soups, but no helicopters. Hey, this time we're going to stand all that up, plus we want to put 3 helicopters up. And so we do what we can to support this kind of request.
Dang, that's awesome.
Yep.
Okay.
So for this, I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but I want to say that initially we were standing up 2 helicopters in San Antonio and 1 in Austin. It might be vice versa, but anyways, we were trying to put swimmers together for that. Our team is pretty small, and much like Austin Fire, we were having trouble getting the number of swimmers we needed to staff helicopters. So Brian and I had talked that evening and said, okay, we're going to fly a few helicopters, single swimmer. We prefer to have 2 in a Black Hawk. But with the available swimmers that we have at the moment, we're going to put single swimmers in them. So that decision had been made. Well, when the big flood actually happened overnight, both facilities, San Antonio and Austin, started scrambling and trying to make more helicopters available, which means that we need more swimmers.
Yeah.
So I started shaking the tree saying, hey, we need swimmers. And somewhere along the way that morning, it was pretty early. I say pretty early. I want to say it was probably like 7 or 8 in the morning. Jeff Saunders, who's the chief of Task Force 1, the program director, he calls me. He's at the State Operations Center, and he says, what would it take to get you to the SOC? As in, how do I get there? I said, I'm on the way. And he said, well, what does that mean for Austin Fire? I said, I'm on vacation today. I don't know what it means. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm on the way. And as I told him afterwards, the right thing to do is the right thing to do, regardless of like what status I'm on or whether I'm getting paid or any of that kind of stuff. Like, there needed to be coordination at the SOC, and I was the guy asked to do it. And so I just left the house. Like, I looked, and this is, mind you, the 4th of July morning with my buddy in from Mississippi, and I got like 60 people planned to be at my house that afternoon. But I mean, the right thing to do is the right thing to do. So I just looked at everybody and said, I got to go. You guys have a good party. And I'm headed to the State Operations Center. So I got down on the way to the State Operations Center. I called one of the other HSART managers, a guy named Greg Reddish, who is also a battalion chief in Austin, and was just like, "Hey, Greg, like we got to do something, bud." Like, and he and I have been best pals for years, so it's like we got to do something. I need swimmers on these helicopters, and and he said, well, "What about you?" I said, "I don't care about me. I got 3 days because I'm off the next 2 days as well." But let's figure out how to get our guys deployed. Made some phone calls. It went up to the city manager's office and basically said, yes, you guys can deploy. And so two Austin Fire swimmers started boogieing to link up with those helicopters. And I believe they were in Hondo because they tried to leave the facilities, tried to get into the area of operation, but weather socking them in. And so I think if I remember right, they landed in Hondo. So I was doing all I could to get available swimmers to Hondo to staff those helicopters. And so I think those helicopters maybe had to wait an hour or two for those guys to eventually drive down there and get staffed up and get on. But I got down to the State Operations Center myself, and this was July 4th. Well, we had just had a SAR-X in May. So 2 months prior, we had just exercised in the state, like, how do we manage a large-scale rescue event with air resources? And so I had filled the role of JAG CT chief there at the SAR-X in May, and midday had passed that on to Greg to give him some experience at that. But for this deal, as I'm driving down there, I'm like, we've got to do what we just did. We just exercised. We need to stand up a JAG CT and make all this happen. So I started making the phone calls to the Guard and to all of the typical aircraft owners and just said, hey, we need LNOs from your helicopter entities in the JAG CT. And on the green side, the Army guys, they send a whole cell of people that kind of help facilitate the dispatching process. Okay. And so gave them all direction to meet at the SOC. And so when I got down there, they had a conference room available for us. And so we just went through the process of standing up what we call the Joint Air Ground Coordination Team, the JAG CT. And, at first, requests are coming in and like the boat guys have been working all night. And those guys have some harrowing stories of things that they did. But, they can work in weather that we can't. And they've been working all night. And we had one of our task force guys who was one of the water group supervisors who kind of oversees the boat squads. And he had been embedded into the EOC in Kerrville. And so he and I just start talking constantly. And when he needed something, he just called me and said, hey, we need an aircraft here. And so we put it on our board. And in the JAG CT, we honestly, the lesson learned from Harvey, from my experience in the Coast Guard, was using a Google spreadsheet. So multiple people can access that spreadsheet and input data. That becomes our dispatching board, if you will. And so as missions come in,
breathing document
it
online.
Is. Yep.
Oh,
and
it's
so
great.
If you own 3 aircraft, you enter your guys or your aircraft into the tracker. Yep. And I've got a row of Army guys that take the dispatch request in. They hand jam that in the spreadsheet and start prioritizing what those look like, what the grids are, what the request is for. And then once the information is collected, then it comes to the JAG CT chief to decide what aircraft do we assign to this. Because in the room, we've got Coast Guard, Customs and Border Protection, DPS, Parks and Wildlife, Starflight, Texas Military Department, the drone guys. There's a main representative of the UAS crews that are in there, and just anybody that owns aircraft is there. And I know I heard you talking to Starflight guys earlier. Like, everybody has their niches, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and everybody's got a chain of command.
Very much so.
So,
which that's what the JAG CT is supposed to help smooth out, though. Yeah. Is that if you've got an aircraft in the fight, the theory is is that the LNO that you send to the JAG-CT should have launch authority for your aircraft.
Cool.
And
Wow, that's great.
So as mission comes in, we look at it, and is it a UH-60 problem? Is it an A-star problem? Is it a medical problem? Is it an evacuation? Is it a hoist? Like, we got to look at all of those factors and decide which aircraft and air crew is best to deal with whatever that problem is. So if it's a single person on top of a car, that's a good A-star DPS kind of solution.
Yeah.
If it's evacuating several hundred people out of Camp Mystic, like that's a UH-60, or we had a Chinook the following days. Also, we can assign a Chinook to it.
Yeah.
But that day for Mystic, we assigned, I think, 5 Blackhawks ended up working that problem.
Wow.
But anyhow, and then, Starflight brings their great medical capability.
Totally.
And so there were a number of times where, there were requests for acute medical problems. And so Starflight's a logical solution for that.
What a great asset to have, like overall,
yes.
between the multiple agencies and different assets. That's great for you.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And that coordination at the JAG-CT, like I think it's pretty key. And as we have conducted those SAR-X exercises over the years, like I think we're at a point now where the normal entities that work with us, they know and understand why that exists, and everybody works well within it. And so as an example, like DPS was the first aircraft that ended up kind of coming into Camp Mystic. Well, a little A-star, like they're not going to be able to do a large evacuation.
Right.
So they start feeding up through their LNO that, hey, like this is a large evacuation problem. And it's good for the JAG-CT to look at that and say, hey, we need a better aircraft to serve that problem.
In the news and in a lot of the correspondence that go back and forth, everybody talks about Mystic. One of the things that I've heard outside of and just talking to a lot of you guys that have been on scene, there was actually a lot of things that were going on outside of Mystic. That just so happened that's where all the majority of the people that needed to be evacuated were assembled. But there were other places like along the river that were really affected, and we had to get in. I mean, Starflight talked about going into a church, and then DPS talks about pulling people out of trees in different areas. And even the Coast Guard had mentioned like, hey, I'm going to go to a different area over here that was also like a new island. And so all these other places, can you elaborate on some of that from some of the calls that you had in from the call center? We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Breeze Eastern. For over 80 years, Breeze Eastern has designed and manufactured battle-proven aerial rescue hoists, winches, and cargo hooks. Each product is carefully crafted to support demanding mission scenarios, ensuring the job gets done safely and efficiently. Visit them today at www.breeze-eastern.com. Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory, globally 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
And Ready Bar. Originally made for astronauts, now designed for first responders and built for you. This high-performance meal bar provides complete nutrition without the sugar crash. A must-have for any helmet bag, swimmer bag, or everyday pack. Get yours today at getreadybar.com and use the promo code RESQ10 for 10% off. Ready Bar, zero crash, all fuel.
The impact area was much larger than Mystic, as you're articulating. And Mystic was important. We put a significant amount of resources in there to get them evacuated and to try to find the missing ladies at the time. But there also were medical calls coming in for people that were having medical issues. There were people that were isolated on islands that needed to get out of there because there were no food, water, shelter, electricity, nothing for them in their locations. And so I was looking at the dispatching sheet earlier, and I want to say on day one we rocked somewhere around, I want to say it was 50 missions or so.
Wow.
That I mean, of which just a small handful of those were Mystic. Like Mystic was a big mission, but it was one of those 50 that occurred. And so, and it was everything from there were local areas that would put together just these hasty casualty collection points where they said, man, like people in the area have no resources. Let's bring them all to a church, or let's huddle them all up at this parking lot. And then they would need to start triaging, and some of those people needed to be medically moved out. And so that's where resources like Starflight with their medical capability were able to come in, make medical evaluations, and get them to the right treatment facilities.
Wow.
There were other camps that were just like Mystic that had campers at the time that were high and dry. They didn't have any food, water, or shelter, and they needed help. Some of those we evacuated. Some of those, especially late in the day on the 4th, they were, for all intents and purposes, okay. They just didn't have any resources. And so late in the day, we did a few like food and water drops so that those folks could stay overnight where they were in the hope that the water would recede overnight and then they could just drive out the next day. And so we did a fair number of those missions late in the day on the 4th.
How long did it take for the water to recede?
I don't have a good answer for that.
All right. So from what I've heard and read, it took a little longer than expected. Is that kind of an accurate statement?
I would say so. Like, yeah, it took a while, and which is why, like on day one, we were delivering that food and water out there because it was not going down as quickly as people had hoped it would, and they needed the ability to at least stay overnight.
Yeah. Wow.
But when did it actually recede? I don't know. I was in my little command cell the whole time. I didn't get to fly over and really see it in person.
Okay.
But yeah, and throughout that time, there continued to be requests for like people stuck in trees, people stuck on islands, people in cars. We had some aircraft, like the Customs and Border Protection. They were not hoist equipped, so they flew up and down the river with their FLIR, identifying places that they thought needed help.
Wow.
And so, like when they found something that needed attention, then it would come back up to us. And if it was something we needed to dispatch a helicopter to, then we would send a hoist-capable aircraft.
That's cool.
Otherwise, if it needed to be accessed by ground, then I would send it to the ground guys, and they would go over and check it by ground.
Oh, that's so cool. This is the first time I've heard that CBP was there.
Yes.
Customs and Border Protection. I didn't know they were up there. That's awesome.
They had a couple of A-stars.
Okay.
Yeah, and they, for the first few days, they flew day and night up and down the river with the main intent to just search the river with their FLIR and try to find survivors.
Wow.
So, but again, they weren't hoist equipped.
Add one more resource to that.
Yes, sir.
Oh my gosh.
I'll throw another one at you. So, I guess along the way, Camp Mystic was a big situation, and we had to have a pretty large scale evacuation. And so I had called Brian Winchell on the phone and just said, "Hey, we need to coordinate this. Like, I'm about to dump a bunch of helicopters over there, and it sounds like there's a lot of ladies that need evacuating out of there. That there needs to be some airspace coordination with that." And so I told him that was his job, was to get on the ground, find LZs, find places where these ladies could walk to, and just control the aircraft in and out of there. Well, the right resource for that would be TACPs.
Oh, yeah.
And so we have traditionally worked with a TACP group out of Houston. And so it like hit me late afternoon that day. I was like, why did I not call the TACPs earlier? So I guess.
Wait a minute. I'm going to defend you for this one, right? You've got 15 aircraft circling around doing your thing.
Yep.
You don't think you need to call them. You got 15 aircrafts, and then you got another 15 that are coming the next day.
Yeah.
Like looking at that as even an outsider, I've got all the resources I need right now.
Sure.
Until all of a sudden you don't.
Yes, which I'll try to. We got to loop back around to that, all the resources, because there was an interesting circumstance I had to deal with where these private pilots were calling left and right, wanting to get in, and how to make a wise decision on saying yes and no to private pilots coming into an area that's already saturated with search and rescue aircraft. But that's another little side piece there. But as far as the TACPs go, I needed them earlier, and I just I guess I was probably task saturated and everything else that was going on, and it didn't occur to me. But as soon as I realized it, called their unit guy. I was like, "Hey man, like how do we get them there?" And he says, "I could probably have one there, maybe two there in a couple hours." I said, "Do what you got to do. Let's do it." And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, so they start working their way there, and along the way, one of them calls me and says, "We need an MQ-9."
I don't even know what that is.
Well, that made two of us at that time, right? Like I was like, I don't know what that is. And he said,
we do.
He said it's a Predator drone.
Oh,
and I said, well, okay, well, what do we need that for? He said, we can have them fly an ISR, and the TACPs could actually even like coordinate with them on the fly and be able to bring a drone feed into the Kerrville EOC. And so it's like, well, okay, we're asking for everything right now. So I went over to the State Operations Center side and talked to Jeff Saunders. Said, hey, I'm hearing that we should ask for a MQ-9. He says, okay, we'll ask for it. So he put in a request for it, and it was approved. And then we went on this whole adventure of we had to put up TFRs for that MQ-9 to be able to fly a drone in this highly impacted area. And so we had a whole group of people dedicated to getting that TFR squared away and the mission planned and everything for that MQ-9 to come in the next day.
Wow.
But it helped some, like in the initial phases. There was so much cloud cover they couldn't see a whole lot. But then late the second day and then rolling into the next few days, they were very beneficial to where their imaging is amazing. And so they're flying the river, and they're looking for piles of debris. They're looking for buzzards. They're looking for anything that would give them an indication that there could be a body there. And they just took a big, long list of them. And so as they're making the list, periodically I would kick that over to the ground teams, and they would either be able to make access by ground, or in a couple instances, we assigned helicopters over to check things that they pinpointed.
Wow.
So.
Man, again, something else I did not know was on scene.
Yep.
Holy smoke.
Yeah. So I guess we evacuated Mystic. They all got transferred to the CCP there at the school. And that's another place that I needed a TACP. Like, it would have been amazing to have him there, because we were having aircraft in and out of there. And but I don't remember who exactly controlled that airspace, or whether they just did it themselves. But they coordinated it pretty good. But the coming days, we had TACPs there ready to hop on aircraft, and there were a few places where, like, the ground guys wanted some air support to take ground people into an area, and then if they needed move anything back and forth, we just dropped TACPs in those spots so that they could have good communication back and forth.
Wow. How many days were you there on scene, kind of coordinating this whole event?
Well, and to be clear, I was in Austin, right? Like I was at the State Operations Center, which is a bunker in downtown Austin.
Wow. And
so all of the LNOs for all of those aircraft owners met there at that in that bunker, and that's where we coordinated all of this stuff. But I worked for the first 4 days.
Okay.
And so Brett got back into town on the fourth day, and he came in that evening or late afternoon and kind of saw what we were doing. And about that time, he had gotten a directive to move the JAG CT from Austin to Kerrville, which it kind of worked out pretty good, because he was going to come in, and I was slotted to leave town. And if things were still hopping, I would have stuck around, but it worked out because Brett was coming in. So he went to Kerrville and stood up the new JAG CT. And then I maintained the one in Austin until they were up and running. And then once we saw the rest of our missions through that we had assigned out, then they started taking the missions on from that point forward.
Wow.
So, and I think that would have been July 7th.
Yeah.
I think is the day that went down.
Wow.
Which, talk about challenges. That was the day that we had a UAS and a Black Hawk strike.
Oh.
Yeah. That was a little sketchy there for.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah. So, I guess in the preceding 3 days, we had been pretty clear about what the UAS airspace deconfliction was. And essentially we said, okay, aircraft stay above 400 and UAS stay below 200.
Okay.
And AGL. And so that was what we pushed out over and over and over again. But at the end of the day, when these aircraft are assigned to missions, they can't stay 400 above AGL for the whole time.
Land.
You got to, you got to land. You've got to perform the mission. If you're going to hoist, like you got to be within that space.
Right.
So, I mean, there were obvious reasons why you would have to do things differently than that original kind of deconfliction plan. But at the end of the day, this on the 7th, there was a Black Hawk flying a VIP mission doing some survey area in an area. And at the same time, there was a UAS that was doing a mapping mission. And,
okay.
So the UAS was maybe just slightly above 200, and then the Black Hawk was down below 400. Again, they're doing a visual mission, so they had made the choice to go down a little bit lower.
Yeah.
And the UAS struck the tail rotor.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So immediately landed, and by the grace of God, no injuries, no problems. They did a one-time flight back to the airport and determined that things were good enough to do another one-time flight back to the main flight facility.
Nice.
But as you can imagine, the military chain of command were asking what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
how did this happen? Why did this happen? Oh,
Yep.
yeah. Oh, I can see
what
the
were we
questions.
doing ahead of time to prevent this
Yep.
from happening? And so
Didn't we say there's multiple chains of command that roll at a time?
Yes.
Everybody's got to answer everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Which honestly, like that's one of the things I enjoy about that job is having to navigate those multiple chain of commands, work that problem, and all get pointed in the same direction. So, we start answering those questions.
Yeah.
And so we had the state aviation officer in the JAG CT at the time or shortly thereafter. And a bunch of us put our heads together, and I kind of led a discussion about, what happened, what are we going to do to prevent this? And we all talked about it, and the SAO was comfortable with where we landed, and all the other parties involved. And so we put together this a formal written deconfliction plan, and then pushed that out far and wide. It's just like we have to be more diligent about this.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Yep.
Wow. It's so I'm like you were talking about earlier. I like to be the operator. And it's interesting to me to listen to you talk about from the command center standpoint of like what aircrafts and what assets you're sending out at multiple different times. And the coordination behind that is incredible. So well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There was a whole bunch of us in there making that happen. Yeah.
Man, during your time inside the operations center there and taking all the phone calls and radio calls and dispatching certain assets to depending on where they needed to go, what are some of the bigger challenges that you saw inside that?
Well, initially we weren't fully staffed. And so I was personally having to maintain a dual role as both the JAG CT chief and maintaining like the overhead awareness of everything that was going on, where the missions are going, dispatching which helicopters are going to be assigned what missions and all that. While at the same time, I had the operational control of the 4 or 5 Texas Military Department and Task Force 1 helicopters.
Yeah.
And so when we owned the mission tasking for a mission, I was the guy that was also dispatching those missions and coordinating those. And it took a little bit for us to get some green help in there, as we call it, some green guys in there that can fill out spreadsheets and answer phones and kind of help with that task load. But as soon as we had a couple more hands in there, I was able to separate those roles and delegate to one of our green partners the helicopter dispatching piece for the Task Force 1 helicopters. And then separately had a guy that was responsible for taking missions in. And so like my personal phone was blowing up with people calling from all over the place.
Yeah.
Right. Well, like I'm sitting here trying to talk while at the same time decide what other mission needs what helicopter. And so I finally got enough help to where I could have one person dedicated to dispatch taking. And so regardless of where that call came from or text message, I was able to just hand it off to that person. They would take the mission in, and then once the mission was hand jammed into the spreadsheet, then it came to me to say, hey, now that we know what the mission is and where it's at, who's the best resource to solve it? And if it was task force, it wasn't me physically dispatching that out. I had somebody else doing that.
That's awesome.
So
Wow.
It's just a delegation of authority and that span and control thing. I got a little thin there for a little bit.
Yeah. That's definitely a challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're trying to do everything yourself.
Yes, sir.
So
I'll give you another challenge that was kind of interesting. Somebody local, and if I remember correctly, it ended up being like a local sheriff, understood how to put up a TFR. And so early on, he called somebody at the FAA and was able to establish a TFR over that operational area. Well, TFR applies to everybody.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, like there's this FAA TFR
do not
that,
fly
yeah,
over this area.
that all of our pilots are starting to push up to the JAG-CT. Hey, who's got this TFR? Like we're not legally allowed to fly in here. And so it took us a minute to figure out, okay, well, who set this up? And then eventually I got on the phone with him, talked to him about what my role was, and he agreed that I had the authority to give approval to search and rescue aircraft to come in the area.
Wow.
Now, I don't believe that's dress FAA, but at the same time, it's just one of those examples of where we're meeting the spirit of this thing.
Yeah.
While at the same time, like we've got to get the work done.
Right.
You know? And so we just, like everybody came to the understanding that as long as an aircraft had approval from the JAG-CT to be in the area, then that sufficed the TFR requirement. And so, but with that, now this guy has my phone number. Well, when you put up a TFR, you have to list a phone number, and his name was listed. Well, as soon as anybody called him and said, can I fly in here, he immediately gave them my phone number.
Oh,
and so,
my gosh.
Yeah. So, like,
so your
like
phone is
my
blowing
phone
up,
is blowing up with all these private pilots wanting to come into the area.
Yeah.
And on one hand, like, who am I to tell somebody they can't go pick up somebody on a ranch and fly them somewhere? But at the same time, like, this area is a disaster area, and we've got 15 to 20 search and rescue aircraft flying everywhere, and I don't need aircraft deconfliction problems, let alone there was something in the back of my mind that said, like, if we have a huge influx of private pilots, like they're going to start sucking all the fuel up at the Kerrville airport. And,
yeah. It's the guys from Starflight were talking about that.
Yes.
Just you have like one truck filling up 15 to then 30 aircrafts.
Yeah.
And that's all military.
And I vaguely remember this moment in time on the 4th where I talked to one of my crews, and it's, where you at? Give me a sit rep. And they said, we're at Kerrville in line waiting for fuel. And so I just noted in the back of my mind that, okay, there's a little bit of a wait for fuel. While at the same time, as I'm getting all these phone calls from these private pilots, like that's a thing that's in my mind that if I say yes to these people, then the next thing you know, the Kerrville airport's going to be clogged up, and like I need that airfield and the fuel to be able to keep the search and rescue aircraft flying.
Well, and you definitely, with the full environment of what you're talking about, some of the smaller aircrafts, as much as I love the fact that they were trying to help, you need hoist capable aircrafts in some of those environments, and then you need bigger aircrafts for the Mystic area and other areas that had hundreds of people there.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I eventually, once I kind of realized what was occurring, I just got into this mode that when one of these private pilots would call me, I would say, number one, we have plenty of aircraft in the area. Number two, if you have somebody that needs assistance right now, give me the grid and I'm going to send an aircraft over there. And what I figured out pretty quick was most of them just wanted to come fly in the area.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And whereas a couple of times, and so when I would ask that question, well, we were just going to go survey this ranch. It's like, now's not the time for that. Like we got active search and rescue things happening.
Yeah.
But there were a couple that legitimately they had been called by a landowner or somebody that said, hey, we want you to come here and pick us up or pick our people up, whoever that is. And so I would get past a grid, and that would just be another mission on our board that we would send an aircraft to.
Right on.
So that probably happened a half dozen times.
Wow.
But I at that moment in time, like I'd never been placed in this position of I'm telling these private pilots, no, you cannot come into this area, which was the right thing to do. But at the same time, like it was a little bit of a challenge for me to have to deal and manage with all of those phone calls coming in.
Wow. Yeah. And so I think a lot of that comes in from Western North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee, because there were so many civilian pilots that went in to do some great things out there. Yeah. And I remember seeing on like Facebook and some of the social media like channels there that they were sending helicopters down and guys that were legitimately wanting to help. So, but again, you have down here, it's a little different in Texas because you guys have that SARX. You have so many assets, and the area that you could respond to was very different than that Western North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee type thing. So, wow. Okay, so let me ask you this then. Out of everything you did, what stands out to you as like wow, I'm super proud of this and how this came together. Super happy about this.
Yeah. I think that would probably just be the Camp Mystic evacuation.
Yeah.
I mean, we evacuated several hundred girls out of there, and I've got pictures on my phone of we have a little bit of a practice of like just making a snapshot of who it is that we hoist, so that if later on you're asked who you hoisted, you know who that is. And so within that text thread amongst the swimmers, from time to time, I'll go back and look at it, and there's just these piles of young ladies in the back of 60s, all with fingers plugging their ears because it's loud, and some of the pictures, there's tears all over the place, and other ones, like they're big smiling ear to ear. I mean, you're getting around in a helicopter. That's pretty cool. You don't get to do that every day. But like evacuating that camp and getting all those ladies out of there and reunited with their families, that's a pretty cool thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's one of the things of the job that we do and how we do it and the emotions that go through, because you have extreme emotions on both sides, not only as the survivors, not only as the victims, but also as the rescuers.
Yeah.
And I know so many of you guys and the guys that were on scene saw some crazy stuff, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yep.
So, man. All right. So I got one last question, then we'll let you get out of here because I know you got a honey-do list today.
Yeah,
so
that's all good.
So my last question is going to be, if you had a piece of advice to pass on to anybody in your specific role, rolling through dispatch, in charge of all that, especially in the large capacity of this and as many aircrafts as you had coming in throughout the days from day one until really the end, which is kind of now, but you had aircrafts there for well into a month plus.
Yes, sir.
So what would your advice
and
be?
later into it, some aircraft from out of state. Yeah. So what I would say is that the time to build relationships that you're going to have to leverage during a disaster is not during a disaster. It comes well before that. And so like our SARX exercise that happens every year, like when as we started really getting things put together, a lot of the conversation in the Real JAG-CT on July 4th was that this was exactly like what we had done 2 months before at the SARX in May in Houston. And so, and then you couple with that the people that were in that room, almost every one of them, like we had met before, we had worked these kind of problems before. And when they walked in the room, it wasn't, who the heck are you? It was high fives. Hey, bro, good to see you. And that's a way better circumstance than starting the butt sniffing thing right off the bat.
Well, that makes your world so much easier as a coordinator.
It does.
And then as far as us in the field and you as an operator as well throughout your career, it just makes it easier because you've already trained together. You've already seen what they do. You're like, oh, I know what they do. I know that hand signal.
Yes, sir.
I know that piece of gear.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
So
Dude,
those relationships have to be built earlier. So
I need to come down and hang out with you with one of these SARXs is what I need to do. All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang out with you and Brett.
Do it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I think it's May next year. It's normally in May. So
Okay.
I would assume it would be the middle to end of May next year.
I just got to convince my wife.
Well, bring her along.
Ooh, tease me with a good time. That'll be awesome. Oh, man. I'll tell you what, DJ, I appreciate you coming on and just sharing your perspective of everything that went on out there. And it blows my mind how much went on, how much got televised and reported on, and then how much didn't. So I'm glad we could get a lot of this out there.
Sir, me
So,
too. Good chatting with you.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here.
Go!
Now it's time for me to pull chocks and take off. But before I go, I'm always looking for the memorable rescues that people have done. If you have one that you're willing to share or know somebody who has a story, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to highlight it here at the Real ResQ. For everybody that is standing by for that SAR alarm, remember, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. So until next time, fly safe and swim hard. Thank you for joining me today here at the Real ResQ Podcast, powered by Vertical Helicast. We'd also like to say thank you to our sponsors for this episode.
Breeze Eastern. For over 80 years, Breeze Eastern has designed and manufactured battle-proven aerial rescue hoists, winches, and cargo hooks. Each product is carefully crafted to support demanding mission scenarios, ensuring the job gets done safely and efficiently. Visit them today at www.breeze-eastern.com. Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory, globally 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
And Ready Bar, originally made for astronauts, now designed for first responders and built for you. This high-performance meal bar provides complete nutrition without the sugar crash. A must-have for any helmet bag, swimmer bag, or everyday pack. Get yours today at getreadybar.com and use the promo code RESQ10 for 10% off. Ready Bar, zero crash, all fuel.
Here in Austin, Texas, I'm in a little training event with the Texas Task Force and the National Guard. The scenario they have is based off stuff that they've actually done in the past. People stuck in the streets. 20 foot on the ground right now. And I've got a they seem real. And these guys are about to come get me. Awesome!